So, good evening, judges. We team PG01247 will be presenting our analysis on DLF. Just a side note before moving forward, we'll be skipping over a few of the slides in the interest of time. So, DLF is India's leading real estate developers with exposure across residential, office, and retail segments. The company is an established player in Delhi NCR and is also present in 17 other cities across 13 Indian states. DLF primarily operates through development business, which develops and sells residential properties, and rental business, which develops and leases office and retail properties through DCCDL, in which DLF owns 67% stake and GIC holds the rest 33% stake. As of March 21, DLF has delivered 100 million square foot of projects and has 187 million square foot of potential developable land banks. It hosts a multi-billion-dollar client base, as you can see here, with tech companies occupying majority of its rental space.
Now coming to the commercial portfolio, we can see that the leasable area for the last 10 years has doubled. It is operating one of the largest office portfolios, and it is strategically relocating downtown assets, which are expected to see strong leasing traction. We can see that the overall vacancy is lower than 5%. The rent has been increasing, which helps restore confidence in increase in rental income and thus operating cash flows. Now, coming to some negative aspects of the portfolio, we can see there's a decline, and this was mainly due to the inability to renew certain tenant expiries. Now, coming to a residential portfolio, we can see that the demand has halved. So DLF has focused more on project execution rather than the launches. And this way, they've been able to control the inventory. It is also focused on mid-income projects, which is as per the market preference, and hence it can generate higher sales and cash flows. It has also reported a sharp decline in its annual new sales and had muted launches. It has underperformed amongst its peers with its subdued launches and sales.
Now, I'll be skipping over a few of these slides so that we can turn to the important points. So, yeah, DLF's return ratios and operating margin has taken a hit owing to weak sales momentum on account of cancellation of various units in various projects. Its strategy of selling inventory upon completion is also something that has contributed towards that scenario. There have been long gestation periods and rising tax collections as well. Also, DLF had deferred rental collections from malls, which contribute to 15% of its rental due to pandemic. The decreasing profit margin, financial leverage, and asset turnover compared to the previous year has also negatively impacted the return on equity component, which is a negative sign for investors. In terms of its liquidity component, the quick ratio and asset turnover ratio component is less than that of industry average. Cash has been decreasing over the years. The upcoming launch pipeline of various commercial and low-rise projects is expected to further arrest the liquidity. Now, DLF has been able to significantly deleverage its balance sheet over the years with a steady cash flow cushion. The significant risk in rental portfolio, along with strategic exits and higher share of income accruing to equity investors versus the bond investors, positions DLF's financials as attractive. DLF is further able to target to keep its net debt levels flat, which is a good indicator for its solvency. With a decrease in the net cash accruals to debt, it will take some time for deleveraging operations to materialize. The company is also on the path of decreasing its debt level, reflected in its gearing ratio. The cost of debt has decreased over the years with an overall steady cost of capital due to decrease in average long-term borrowings and infusion from promoters and QIP's proceeds, further reducing the net debt.
Yeah, talking about its peer comparison and working current ratio, DLF has a relatively high current ratio comparison to its peers, which shows that DLF has not been able to manage its working capital efficiently. Talking about the Altman Z score, which is a combination of 5 financial ratios used to estimate the likelihood of financial distress, DLF Z score is 2.16, which has increased over the past 5 years, which shows that its financial position has improved and it is less likely to default. Talking about its capital structure, 75% of the equity belongs to promoters, 5.5% are held by public. Out of its total debt, 61.5% of the total debt is long-term debt and 38.5% is short-term debt, out of which 97.6% of the total debt is secured debt.
Now, talking about some positive rating drivers, it has a strong market position and economies of scale. They have diversified fixed rate amortization with decreasing debt and less foreign loans. They have adopted for a one-time reversal of deferred tax asset, which will help lower the tax in the future. They have also hedged 100% foreign currency borrowing and given loans to related parties, which are repayable on demand. On top of it, they have exceptional qualification and past experience in their board of directors. Now, coming to the negative drivers, The industry is cyclical with muted demand, which was hugely impacted by COVID, which was already struggling with liquidity and oversupply issues with negative sentiments. The low collections has impacted operational cash flow and negative PAT. There have been delays with construction timeline due to lockdown, and there has been various legal complaints filed against the company, including hefty penalties. Now, coming to risk analysis, the credit risk is generally low with respect to receivables, as the registry of property is sold and is carried out once the entire payment is received. It has a strong market position, being a market leader, but the sector is cyclical and has been hugely impacted by lockdowns. It has taken forward contracts to hedge its cash flows, which covers the entire duration of the foreign currency loans, but it has international transactions, which is yet still exposed to it. Its fixed rate borrowings are carried at amortized cost, and the fixed deposit interest bearing security and loans are carried at fixed rate. To manage the price risk arising from investments in mutual funds, it has diversified its portfolio of assets. And finally, with respect to legal risk, the company is presently involved into various proceedings which has hefty penalties.
You're on mute.
Yeah. Talking about the rating methodology, which is aimed to understand better the approach used by us towards analyzing the business and financial risk profiles of DLF. Given the presence of strong operation, financial and managerial linkages, we have taken a consolidated view of the DLF rating along with its subsidiaries.
So we'll be skipping over directly to the industrial risk. Yeah.
So talking about the industrial risk analysis, we have taken two parameters, which is cyclicality assessment and competitive risk. So the global industrial risk score for DLF is 2.5.
We evaluate the financial risk on profitability, solvency, liquidity, valuation, foreign exchange, auditor's qualification, and new project risk by assigning them a weight and a score. Looking at DLF's margins, liquidity ratios, project pipeline, debt-laden cash accruals, and future prospects with diversification in rental portfolio and strategy to monetize the inventory. We rate this risk at 3.1 out of 5.
Now, for business risk analysis, we have used the following parameters, which were industry, market position, operating efficiency, business diversification, credit risk, exchange rate risk, interest rate risk, legal and future industry prospects. The score we gave was 3.06 out of 5. And for management risk analysis, we used promoters' capabilities, independent directors, remuneration ceiling, related party transactions, committees and policies, and auditor independence. The score given was 4.43 out of 5.
Now, I'll be giving the credit rating based on the credit matrix that we have prepared. We have assigned a credit score of 3.25 out of 5 with a corresponding rating of BBB+ basis the financial, business, management, and industry risk, with maximum weightage given to the financial parameters and others being assigned an equal weight. We see the company to be having good prospect in the future in terms of financials. With the expanding portfolio, huge land bank reserves at diverse locations and deleveraging exercise, we see the risk score and the credit rating to improve henceforth. Thank you. That's from our side.
Yeah, jury members, go to you.
Yeah, hi. So in the slide on margins, net profit and other margins, even though you clarified that, because of certain reasons like unsold inventory and all that, can you give some more detail? Why have the margins diminished so much? If you can go to that slide once.
Sure, sir. So these margins, right? So,
right. So net profit margin was like how much? FY18 was like 60-65%, right?
Yes, sir.
And FY20 is like negative 20%. So
right,
what is
sir.
it? What happened here?
So actually, it's majorly on because the COVID has happened, and because of that, most of the income that they have received has been counted as receivables now. So they are not being recorded in the income statement, rather they are being recorded in the balance sheet, and most of the payments have not been made. So like I specified a particular point that 15% of their rental income comes from the malls. So that has not come. Their inventory is getting accumulated a lot, and they have not been able to sell a lot of inventory as compared to the previous years. And that is why their expenses have been rising on account of inventory obsolescence, or maybe they have huge land bank reserves which they have not been able to monetize. And so expenses have been rising, revenue has been falling because there has been very less sales, there has been very less rental income. Also, they have taken loans, they had to make interest payments on those loans. Interest expenses are also rising. And because of all of this factors accumulated together, the profit margins has fallen.
Okay, good. So on the revenue recognition, if I got you correctly, you said some change in accounting policy, like PL account and balance sheet. Is there any standard rule like Ind AS or some other standard followed by the CAS2? What should a company do for recognition?
So revenue recognition, I mean, we follow Ind AS, which is very much equivalent to IFRS. So, I mean, if they want to recognize revenue, it's on accrual basis. So if in this case, like we have a lot of receivables, we have recognized, we sometimes recognize that as revenue. It depends on whether we are capitalizing it or expensing it, whatever we are getting, right? And it's basis the Ind AS standard only, which is based on IFRS, more or less.
Okay. One generic question: what is your cost of fund, if you have a ballpark number?
So the cost of raising funds, I think we have already this one, yes, sir.
Yeah. So as a percentage, what is the cost of debt? Is it like 10%?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
So very close to 9.95.
Okay, 9.95. Okay.
Yeah.
So if they were to issue a bond today, would the cost be like 9.95%?
So, anyone you would like to add, or should I go ahead? So, if they were would like to raise a bond today, I feel there will be a more required rate of return than 9.95%. Although they are getting 9.95, but compared to the marketplace, we feel that the bond or the interest that investors will be demanding on those bonds, whether those are options, whether those are futures on DLF stock price and underlining, that will be more than 9.95%. They have been able to raise on 9.9. So definitely as an investor, I would want more than 9.95%. So that, I am hedging my position in one way or the other.
So I was saying like 11-ish, 12-ish approximately for the company to issue bonds.
So sorry.
So if you say higher than 9.95, is it like approx 11%, approx 12%? If they were to issue bonds today?
So it will be definitely less than cost of equity. I mean, that is a given. Like equity is more than 20% or something like that. And it will be less, at least, for the current purpose, I would say close to 12 or 30%.
Okay. And one last question. At the end, you said the rating so and so BBB plus expected to improve. So
yes,
improvements, what do you expect, like CRISIL or ICRA to improve their ratings? Or what is it? I was not clear on that.
So yes, so basically we would like to see, I mean, given the position that they have taken, they have been able to reduce their debt by a huge amount, and their gearing is also expected to improve. So what we are expecting is that going forward, that these companies, ICRA and CRISIL, will give them a good rating, especially to their unsecured debt, like from maybe the rating might be reaffirmed from A to A plus. In fact, DLF is already in the investment grade of ICRA. So we expect the ratings to improve in that way. I mean, for the rating agencies to reaffirm their rating from maybe A plus to AAA going forward.
Okay, you meant to say upgrade from A plus to AAA.
Yes, sir. Okay. I mean, going forward in like 5 years or of time in the tenure, we expect them to improve their ratings.
Okay, none from my side.
Do you know of any real estate company in India which enjoys a AAA rating?
So, ma'am, apart from DLF, there are many other players like Godrej Properties is there. I think it already enjoys a AA minus rating, if I'm not wrong, not the AAA.
What makes you feel DLF will get a AAA rating over the next 5 years? That too, how many notches jump are we talking about? From the A plus to AAA, that's what you said, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is your thought process? Because your own rating that you guys have accorded is a BBB plus, if I saw it correctly, right?
Yes,
so you are anyways more conservative than the rating agency which has given it. So you are lower than CRISIL ICRA rating, right?
Yes, ma'am. So that is basis our analysis that we have done. But obviously, there are some parameters that they consider beyond what we have done, and they are seeming to be much more optimistic whenever if you read their reports, it seems to be much more optimistic and more on the lines of them seeing a CAGR of more than like 20%, 28%, something like that. So that is why we expect these agencies to rate them higher, and it's majorly on the basis of the deleveraging exercise, their REIT listing, which will help them monetize their assets. So majorly because of these two things. I mean, these they are going to. I mean, if you see the reduction in debt now, it's very drastic. So it hasn't happened for any of the other players. For each of the other players, like let's just say GR Infra and even Godrej Properties, they have been increasing their debt going forward, and these guys have been reducing their debt, and at the same time monetizing their assets, raising their rental income, entering into the the segment of low and mid-rise segment. So I
How
mean,
is GR Infra comparison? Sorry, how is GR Infra comparison to DLF? I mean, just for my academic interest.
Ma'am, so we compared some of the peers, and basis those peers, I mean, we have also, I think, it'll be seen here that we have compared. I think we've done somewhere. So, anyway, so what I'm saying is,
what is the rating of GR Infra? What is the debt of GR Infra? I mean, because you said you compared it with DLF.
Yes, ma'am. So GR Infra's debt currently, I think it stands about 5,000 something crores, and for DLF,
what is the debt equity?
Debt equity, I think, I'm not sure, but I think debt equity is a bit higher as compared to DLF.
Okay, and what is the rating of GR Infra?
Rating, I think it falls in some AA minus or A plus segment only.
Plus, I believe it's A plus.
Yeah.
Your rating or the rating agency's rating?
No, the rating agencies, ma'am.
Okay. I have no more questions. Thanks. By the way, GR Infra is AA and Godrej also AA.
Yes, ma'am.
Record. I have no more questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Other jury members, any questions?
Hi. You mentioned that essentially you expect ratings to improve because they have done a very commendable job on reducing their debt and other operational parameters. But despite that improvement, you in your slides are showing that the DSCR remains well below 1 and that the return on capital is in low single digits, or I don't know, negative or in low single digits. So why are you so enthused by the improvement when your own numbers are not looking healthy?
So actually, basis the annual report that we have analyzed, we see there is a very huge downtrend for FY20, not for the other years or not for the previous years as compared to FY20. So I think, basis the very normalized average, FY20 has been able to, drive the numbers down. But if you see the quarterly numbers, like in their investor presentations as well, or their con call highlights, you'll see that they have a plan of action, and they have taken steps towards those. And this debt reduction exercise, their REIT listing, which will soon be there, which will be one of a kind, and everything combined together, I think there is a very huge positive. We feel there is a very optimism amongst DLF and its investors that they are going to take those numbers forward, and they're going to sustain them as well.
And also, sir, apart from the industry aspect, as Dishant already spoke, I want to focus on the strategy change that DLF has come up with. For example, it used to focus on high-rise luxury projects, which is been seen a decline nowadays. But now they have almost 40% of their launches that are coming are for the low-rise developments, which are for the mid-income products. So for that, the government is also pushing forward the affordability factor. So they are combining that aspect. So we feel that sales in future would definitely rise. So because of all those aspects, we feel that we might upgrade the ratings in future.
Sure, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
And what is their REIT plan? Are they likely to come out with the REIT issue?
Yes, so under CDS umbrella, they are bringing REIT. So if it's that possible, it will be one of the largest in terms of the operational area, and it will be a material trigger for the debt reduction for the company. So they are in proposal for this REIT listing.
And what is their foreign currency debt right now? You mentioned it's fully hedged. As a percentage of overall borrowing, or how large is that?
Don't actually remember.
In terms of borrowing mix.
So as a percent,
you have a borrowing mix of the company. So where do they borrow their money largely? Is it banks, market?
So actually, they most of the borrowings that we see are from the banks that they have done.
Yeah. Slide 26.
26. This one, yeah. Yeah.
The foreign debt is approximately 5.4%.
All right.
It's very less as compared to the other debts, and their short-term loans are very much secured, that we have noticed. So also they have been able to reduce their unsecured loans. So definitely that's also a good trigger for a rating upgrade.
All right. Yeah. No more questions from my side. That's fine.